Yeah, maybe that.
You may begin.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Welcome to the March 25th, 2024 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that this Planning Commission meeting is being held in person. Oh, sorry. How about this? Good? Better? Sorry about that. I don't talk very loud. I'm sorry. Yes, good? Now good. Okay. Try that again. I would like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Welcome to the March 25th, 2024 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that this Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and using the Zoom webinar format. This meeting is also being streamed live on YouTube and will be uploaded to the city's website. Please note that we are not accepting remote public comment during commission meetings. We ask that the public either attend the meetings in person or comment or send an email to publiccomment@burlingame.org. Staff will be monitoring emails submitted during the meeting, which will be read at the appropriate time. The length of the emailed comment should be commensurate with the 3 minutes customarily allowed for verbal comments. Agenda item 2, roll call. The record should note that all 7 members of the commission are present. Agenda 3, request for AB 2249 remote participation. There are no commissioners participating remotely. Agenda 4, approval of the minutes. We have minutes to review and approve from March 11th, 2024, regular Planning Commission meeting. Are there any comments, changes, discussions regarding the minutes from my commissioners? No, and then I'm looking for a motion then to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Schmidt, seconded by Commissioner Camerado. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowenthal,
Aye.
Chair Pfaff.
Aye. Approval of the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes from staff.
Okay, and I have to recuse from one item, but does anyone else need to recuse?
Yes, I need to recuse from item 10A, as I live within 500 yards.
Okay,
Feet.
and I will be recusing from 36 Bloomfield, whatever item that is.
And I'll be recusing from item 9A, 900 Paloma, as I have a business relationship with the owners of that property.
Okay, very good. Did everybody catch that? Or do I need to repeat? Okay, very good. Okay, then we're moving on to agenda 6, public comments, non-agenda. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for future Planning Commission agenda may do so during public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Do we have any members of the public here tonight who attending in person who would wish to speak on any item that is not on the agenda? No takers? Okay, then do we have any public comment email?
There are no public comment emails for non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to study items, agenda 7, number 7. There are no study items for review. Agenda item number 8, consent calendar. This is where I'm going to leave just for a moment.
He's doing that. I will start agenda item number 8. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine. They are acted on simultaneously unless separate discussion and/or action is requested by the applicant, a member of the public, or a commissioner prior to the time the commission votes on the motion to adopt. This evening, we have one item on the consent calendar, item 8A, 36 Bloomfield Road. Would any member of the public or planning commission like to pull this item for discussion? No? Then we don't have to do a motion, correct?
So we'll want to see if any member of the public would like to pull the item.
Would any member of the public like to pull 30 seconds? No, seeing none?
So we'll need a motion and a
I
second.
make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Second that. All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please? Or any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note that I was not in attendance when this item was on the agenda, but I have read all the minutes and I'm up to speed so I can vote on the item.
Great, then I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So the motion passes 6-0-1-0. Is this appealable?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and action by the planning commission is appealable to the city council within 10 days of the planning commission's action. If the planning commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the city council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $784, which includes noticing costs. Welcome back, Chair.
Thank you very much
How are you?
for helping me, Vice Chair Lowenthal. Okay. That brings us to the regular action items. 9A, 900 Paloma Avenue. You are the applicant and are attending the meetings via Zoom. Please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Commissioner, did we say Commissioner Corrado is leaving? Yes, okay. She is recusing from this item. Let the record note that all commissioners present have visited this site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review for a new two-story single-unit dwelling and attached garage on a lot that contains an existing single-unit dwelling. And there's also a request for a fence variance for fence height at 900 Paloma Avenue zoned R2. The property contains an existing one-story single-unit dwelling and a detached one-car garage. The subject property is zoned R2, which allows up to 2 residential units on the lot. In addition, up to 2 accessory dwelling units are permitted. With this application, the applicant is proposing to retain the existing dwelling, demolish the existing detached garage, and add a new 2-story dwelling with an attached garage behind the existing dwelling. A new carport would connect the existing and new dwelling. The total proposed lot coverage would be 3,392 square feet, where 4,906 square feet is the maximum allowed. And staff would note that there is no floor area regulation in the R2 lot, so just lot coverage in terms of square footage. The number of bedrooms in the existing house will remain at 2, and the proposed new dwelling would have 6 bedrooms. 2 parking spaces are required for the existing dwelling and 2 spaces are required for the new dwelling, for a total of 4 parking spaces. However, state law and zoning regulations state that when a garage is demolished in conjunction with the construction of an ADU, those off-street parking spaces are not required to be replaced. Therefore, the required off-street parking in this case would be 3 spaces, 2 of which must be covered. 1 covered space is provided in the new attached garage, and a second covered space is provided in the new carport. 2 uncovered spaces are provided on the property. For additional privacy screening, the applicant is requesting a fence variance for an 8-foot tall fence, and that being 6 foot solid plus 2 foot of lattice, along the rear and side property lines where 7 feet is the maximum allowed. Planning staff would note that the subject site is located in the special flood hazard area, which requires that the new dwelling and ADUs be constructed above the base flood elevation plus 1 foot to comply with FEMA and California code requirements. This requires that the finished floor elevations of the structures be at or above elevation 17 feet. With this application, the finished floors of the new dwelling and ADUs have been designed to comply. The new dwelling and ADUs would contain crawl spaces ranging in height from 5'1" to 6 feet. Staff would note that the initial project design reviewed by the Planning Commission in August of 2023 included raising the grade at the rear half of the lot approximately by 5 feet, with retaining walls along the left side and rear property lines to comply with the flood hazard requirements. However, as noted, the design has changed, so the finished floors of the structures are being raised to comply rather than the grade. So the existing grade would remain at the same level it is now. An arborist report was prepared by Keelty Arborist Services, and that was included in your packets. The arborist report evaluates all trees and shrubs on the subject property, as well as trees on the adjacent properties located near the shared property lines. The arborist report also provides a tree protection plan for the applicant to implement for the construction. That was also added as a condition of approval for the project. The proposed project includes removing all non-protected trees to allow for construction. The only protected size trees on the lot is a 36-inch diameter Canary Island date palm located in the right rear corner of the lot, and that is proposed to be retained. The project includes planting new trees and shrubs throughout the site, including 9 24-inch box Drake's Chinese elm trees. Also proposed are several blue Italian cypress. While these are not considered landscape trees, they are being proposed to provide privacy screening along the left and right side property lines. Just to summarize, the applicant is requesting design review for the new 2-story dwelling that's being proposed, and also the fence variance. At the Planning Commission Design Review Study meeting on August 28th, 2023, the commission had several comments and suggestions regarding the project. The applicant submitted a response letter dated November 16th, 2023, and revised plans, date stamped March 5th, 2024, to address your comments and concerns with the project. Suggested findings for design review and fence variance are found on pages 4 and 5 of the staff report. I did also want to point out that there was a letter submitted, or an email along with the letter submitted by Michael Barber. That email was submitted both to the Planning Commission and as a public comment, but since you've received it already, we won't read it aloud. We have copies of that letter at your desks. We also have the senior engineering inspector, Martin Kwan, with us. If you have any flood-related questions, he's available to answer those. If you have any questions for staff, we can take those now.
So I'd like to open to my colleagues. Yes. Questions for staff? Well, I would like to take advantage of, it's Martin, right?
Yeah, Martin.
And if that's okay. I wanted to ask if Martin understood what Mr. Barber was getting at, and if he had any comments, because I don't feel qualified to even comprehend exactly.
Sure. Martin's joining us virtually, so
Hi,
there's
Mark Swan, Senior Civil Engineer. I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? I was,
Yes, a few hours ago, or I don't actually know when it came in, but sometime today I received it. A letter from Michael Barber
Mhm.
In the neighborhood there, and asking, well, it was really engineering and flood related, and I wondered if you'd seen it and if you had any comments about it technically.
I have not seen the letter from him, but I have met with him and 2 other neighbors that are adjacent to the subject property. Their concerns were with the existing parcel and how it acts as kind of a retention basin for floodwaters, and the neighbor's concern is about how this development will impact the direction of the floodwaters. So The developer, I have met with the developer and their design team, and we did discuss the original design was going to fill the parcel to bring it up to the base flood elevation to meet FEMA requirements plus the 1 foot for California code. However, that would then direct all the water to the adjacent neighbors. So the developer has decided to design it differently, which is the current design that you see before you, which is basically leaving the existing grade, as Ruben mentioned, as is, and then raising the actual structures to meet FEMA requirements. And mhm.
Sorry.
All
I-
right, so yeah, so sorry, in terms of the concerns about flooding, the development is meeting the FEMA requirements to construct and to protect their building in terms of the actual flood waters. The design requires that the crawl space area or the basement area that's non-habitable to allow flood waters to enter and exit. So even though there's physical walls or what we call cripple walls that are surrounding the structure, flood waters can enter and exit. So I would say the amount of water that is entering that parcel will be the same amount of water that exits the parcel. So it's not going to exacerbate the existing flood conditions in that area.
There was, I mean, as much as I could understand, he mentioned something about not putting, I don't know, some kind of building material on the outside. What is?
Yeah, let me,
Yeah. Maybe
I'll go,
read it.
I'll go ahead and read the email. He also included other information that I won't read because you've already had that access to, but I'll at least read the email and so you can kind of understand what he's referring to. So this is from Michael Barber. Based on the Burlingame staff report, the state mandated safety element and FEMA requirements for properties in designated 100-year flood zones, it would appear that Planning Commission can make some design considerations in the approval process. I have included a variety of excerpts supporting these considerations in the attached document. This particular parcel is known to be at a low elevation and was historically a seasonal wetland. The new development will virtually eliminate all the permeable space on the parcel. The current design with siding covering the area required to elevate the buildings will undeniably deflect water to other properties. In addition, the city storm drain in this area has a very limited capacity and cannot take additional stormwater due to its low elevation and impact from moderate winter high tides. This would be a health and safety risk to the neighbors. Assuming the 3 additional buildings are approved, the very least the Planning Commission could require is that the elevated buildings built without an enclosure, see diagram and supporting documentation in the section taken from FEMA Flood Insurance Program. This is a common requirement for buildings in the coastal flood zones. By eliminating the siding on the buildings below the livable space, at least the historical flow of water would remain unhindered. Given that the buildings would not be visible from the street, there would be no aesthetic loss to the neighborhood. It will be important for the Planning Commission to set sound and standard policies in designated 100 flood zones, particularly as climate change increases the risk of flooding. This current project is a potential precursor of what other developers will do with similar nearby properties. Doing everything we can to minimize risk is a fundamental part of the safety plan. Fortunately, the new design elevates the buildings as opposed to elevating the parcel by using fill to raise the elevation of the property itself. This should be standard practice for any property in a flood zone, including 500-year flood zone areas, raising the buildings, not the land itself. Thank you for your consideration and making these relatively minor design changes as part of your review of the property at 900 Paloma. So I can add a little bit more. We did speak to the chief building official today. And even though it's not specified on the plans, they will be required to add in vents along the base of the entire structure, not just the proposed structure, but also the ADUs, to allow water to flow all the way through the house and not be captured or, not stay within the footprint of the house, but so that the flow of water will go through the crawl space area. the calculation, there's a certain calculation based on the footprint of the building to determine how much venting is required. But that will be checked thoroughly during the building permit review process.
So that is sort of what he was talking about. He was saying leave off the siding so it can kind of breathe-ish. Is that what he's getting at? Or
Well, I think Mr. Barber is actually saying you would have to build, it's a different type of foundation. It's on piers essentially.
Mhm.
So if you think of the houses that are on stilts in
right?
Florida,
Mhm.
it's that concept. It wouldn't be 1 story high, but enough to get the finished floor where it needs to be. But that's a whole different system.
Okay.
Those are piers that have to go further into the ground. Because when you have water flowing in there, there's also a concern about the structural stability of the house. You don't want the house to then, there's a lot of pressure that's put on foundations with water. So that's a completely different system. So that's what he's talking about, is not having any siding, but having the house built on piers.
Oh, I didn't understand that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Barber. I don't think we can resolve that part tonight, but thank you very much. And yes, of course.
And before you go.
Yeah, I'm not done. I have a question too, but you go
Go-
first.
Well, no, go ahead. I
Well-
just didn't want you to send him off.
No, I honestly couldn't, and I don't know if it's a staff question. I couldn't understand I guess, are we calling it an enclosure? It looks like almost like a concrete thing that's wrapped around. Sorry, almost like a concrete thing around the buildings. Like I'm seeing something light colored that looks an appendage to the building. I don't really understand what is that?
Is that at the base, at the base of the building?
Yes,
But-
it doesn't go all the way up. It's just maybe, I don't know,
Stucco.
Yeah.
stucco thing. It's like
It would-
that.
Yeah, that would be stucco. That's part of it could be part of the crawl space, the foundation. So the foundation is essentially a solid concrete wall.
Mm.
And then it could be stuccoed over. And that's what you could be seeing.
It's looking like a design element, though. It's not looking like well, maybe it's supposed to be both. I don't know.
So that could be a good question for the
Okay.
designer.
I will ask. Okay. Your turn,
So
Commissioner Schmidt.
I have a question of, do we know where the water's coming from? Because there seems to be a great concern about how much water is coming through this site. And I do remember there being a small area in the middle where there was quite a bit of water sitting before. But it seems to me like everybody else is higher in the back than this lot. And then the 3 lots along the side are pretty much flat and even with it.
Martin, I don't know if you heard that question. Do we know where the water's coming from in this area?
Yeah, so I'm sorry. It is the surrounding neighborhood. So this this subject parcel is at a lower elevation than everything else around it. So it acts kind of just like a low point. All the waters that you're asking about is coming from uphill. So it's basically a tributary area. So think of it as so the adjacent park, everything around it is just a low-lying area, and that's where all the water flows to. So we have a storm drain system that's in the front of the street as well as on kind of on the side, and we have a back alley too as well. And during heavy rain events, those pipe structures become filled with water and what we call surcharge, meaning that the pipe cannot handle any more additional flow. And then so it basically bubbles up. Kind of think of simplistic way of thinking of it like a toilet getting plugged up and then it just backs up and then starts overfilling. So kind of the same situation occurs in this area until the water recedes downstream, which is to the bay, then water can flow out of that area. But it is in the special flood hazard area, so it's prone to flooding, just based on the existing topography of the area or existing grades.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Commissioner Say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Martin, we don't have in our package of the civil drawings that I see it's on the sheet index, but it's not a part of our set. So I trust that you've had a chance to look at them and do you have any comments in terms of how the civil design has been addressed for this property and for these added structures?
Yeah, so at the planning stage for the entitlement, it's just meeting the minimum requirements for public works engineering, as well as all the other departments that are reviewing it. We don't go into the details of the calculations until at the building permit phase, but however, they are meeting the minimum requirements for this project.
They do meet the minimum requirements at this time?
Correct.
And it's specifically to the topography and the grade of this?
Correct. So the option that they've selected to instead of fill the site satisfies our concern about basically creating an island. So the project would basically be higher than everyone else adjacent to them. So they are allowing the floodwaters to still enter their parcel. So that was our main concern with the original design, which showed that they were going to fill the existing grade higher up to meet FEMA. But in this situation, they're not doing that. So they are meeting the minimum requirements that would satisfy our public works engineering review for these plans.
Mm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you, Martin, very much. Any other questions of staff and? Okay, so we're gonna go along, move along. Then I'm gonna ask,
Thank you, Martin.
yeah. Sorry? Oh, any questions from public? No. Public who's,
We should have the applicant come up,
yes.
then we'll take public comment.
Right, sounds good. Okay, then. This is the opening of the public hearing. Would the applicant like to come forward? Yes, hi, Tim.
Good evening.
Name, everything else you want us to know, the public, about your project.
Hi, Tim Berdines, project designer. The owners are on Zoom. They're not here present. Just kind of want to go through a few comments about our neighborhood outreach and to also address some of the questions that the neighbors have had. And also just go through a little bit about what Martin had talked about. I'm just going to go A, B, C, and D. What we did, reaching out to the neighbors, we had a neighborhood outreach at the community center a few months ago. It went well, of course. Not everyone's happy. It's as Martin and everyone has been saying, even the neighbors, we are the sink for everyone. All the water does run to the low point. So what we've done is we've had Travis Lutz with Precision. He's a local civil engineer. He's worked in Hillsborough, San Mateo, Burlingame for over 25 years. That's number one. We got a local engineer that understands the issues of the complexities of Burlingame, where the water is coming from. Number one, in the planning stage, we have a completely building submittal ready package. They probably didn't include it with you because this is a planning stage, but we've done it all. We've worked with Martin. We'll continue to work with the Public Works Department to help alleviate the concerns of the neighbors. There's a few ways that we're doing that. We're, number one, keeping the grade as is so that the water still collects on our property. It's going to happen. We're in a flood zone. We're raised above it. I do think that the pier and keeping the foundation clear is not the way to go. That's what they do in the southern states, like along the ocean. I would not do that. What we will do during the building submittal phase is we will include the calculation and the actual FEMA approved floodgates. They're basically vents that open up during floods to let the water go through the foundation. I've had experience doing it in three counties, Napa County, Sonoma County, and I've done one actually in San Mateo on Palm. So I've done this a few times. I know the neighborhood is still a little have a few more issues. Parking. We showed the minimum and added 2 outside parking. There's also some extra spaces there that we didn't show, but there's more parking than required. Number 3, we'll continue to work with the neighbors on the landscape plan. A lot of the issues was privacy. We'll continue to work with them on placement of the plants when we get to that point. And I can have it, I'm with the project until it's completed, so we can continue to work with them. So that would be the parking, and that would also be the landscaping. And then the 4th would be the civil engineer, the arborist, and the landscape. We already have the civil drawings that we did preliminary to help satisfy some of the neighbors a little bit better at this point. Those were the 4 options or outreaches that we did to better help them. As for the fence variance, that was a neighborhood kind of want. We paid the extra fee to do that. Hopefully, I think that's a pretty simple approval. We did that in a good faith gesture to help. In regards to Martin, we've been working with him. We'll continue to work with Martin at the Public Works Department to make sure that we're doing everything above and beyond and not just the minimum. We have a large catchment system that takes our rain that we would get and hold it and then discharge it on a time release system. So we're gonna do per code what we have to do, but we're also going to be continuing to take the water from our surrounding neighborhood. We've done a few things to increase the look of the project. That was one of the concerns of the project, which I think we've added to. And I will be here to answer any of your questions, and I'm sure we'll have some neighbors come up and we'll talk through it. But I think it's a really good project, and it's tough to put a lot of housing in a spot that never had housing. I totally get it. It's rough to see, but it's progress, and we're really updating a derelict property that really was never kept up. And you can already see by the house that we remodeled, it's going to be kind of a cool little, a little mismatch of small little properties. And, we're going to have, four livable places. So I think it works well. We have good parking shown, and it's not going to look like a parking lot. It's most of the parking is in the back, and that's a little bit, it's not to do with me. It's due to because it's a very triangle lot and we kept the existing house. You won't see most of the new buildings from the street just because of the way we designed it. So I will be here to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
I have a couple that I'm going to let my colleagues ask if do you have anything? Yes.
Just a
Mr.
few questions, Jesse. One is in the new main house on the left elevation.
Yep.
At first I read it as a second floor balcony, but it's just a flat area outside.
Flat area, correct.
What was the thinking of that?
It's to just let light to the neighbor a little bit. So we're not just building on maximums and having straight walls. It's just to give a little definition.
Okay, so it won't be a balcony in the.
It's not a balcony.
It looks like there's a lot of impervious pavers, but it says pervious. So could you talk through like what's the percent of permeability of the paver system? Because that might help people realize that even though it's a parking area, water can get through that paving system.
Correct. So the water, basically the the pavers themselves have a crack. Basically, the joint lets water through it. Also, the paver itself lets water through it. That is also where the drainage catchment system is, where all of the roof drainage goes into this huge plastic tube and it gets stored and then it gets released on a time kind of allotment as the city septic or the city drainage system catches up with all of the floodwaters, it releases over time. So that is, I mean, the driveway is, I mean, we have to get to the back, so there's a long driveway. We're utilizing that to put the actual civil engineering, the water catchment system in. And I'm sorry you didn't get the civil, but Martin and me and the owners have gone through it ad nauseum a little bit. And we'll continue we're going to have probably two or three rounds of building comments. So we'll continue to refine that, but that's a large portion of the design. So.
And then one last question for the crawl space underneath the new buildings. Is
Yep.
that gravel? Is it concrete? Is it just dirt? How is that?
It'll probably be gravel, or we'll talk to the structural engineer on how we want to deal with it with the civil as well. Since there's going to be very large openings on all four sides so that it lets the floodwaters in, it probably will be a concrete, like a rat slab is what they call it in the construction industry. Just to keep the water from permeating down. We want to keep it just flowing across. So.
Commissioner Say?
Just a follow-up question on the catch basins. Were you saying that they're all located in the driveway, where all the pavers are, or are there some in
Correct. It's
back?
underneath the driveway.
Underneath the driveway, in that kind of triangular portion of the?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner?
So is there a drain going down the right side between your long angle and then the 4 or 5 neighbors that are backed up to you?
Correct.
Right? I'm assuming there's a big old drain going down
Yes.
under those pavers
Underneath those, yes, correct.
to try and catch what they're letting through and what could potentially go back from you.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Shores? No? Okay, I have a couple questions. Piggybacking on my colleague's question about this concrete thing that I don't know.
The foundation.
Well, the wall it looks like it's this design element that you have that you just explained was
Yep.
not a balcony.
Correct.
How wide is that? And why does it even have to be there? Why don't you just leave the house set back the same? It looks strange to me. What is that? Is it like solid concrete or
Oh, it's
stucco or?
want to go to the.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's just so what we don't see is the neighbor. The neighbor has a 2-story house and there's no relief on it. And I want to let the neighbor have some light. So I'm backing our house off to just kind of compensate for the neighbor having a very large house with there's no relief on his side. So I'm trying to get them a little bit of light instead of us completely ruining all of their southern light.
That's admirable, but I'm not quite understanding them. Why do you, it adds, what is that, 2-3 feet onto I don't know how wide.
It's about 3 feet, I think.
So why not just take that away and keep
Well,
the house away?
The first floor would be 3 feet smaller.
It's habitable under.
Yeah, it's habitable
Why
underneath.
oh.
Yeah.
I understand now.
He's creating a clear story
Yeah.
for the.
Got it.
Allowing the top to be less.
It's just
Got it.
staggering it. And I know it
Looks a little
actually
strange.
will look cool because the wood siding wraps it and then where it breaks is the stucco.
No, it's
We'll probably never see that side of the house just because it's so far in the corner. And also like the neighboring house it's 2 stories. There's no relief. It's more of a modern detail. And I was just trying to stay away from the daylight plane as well.
Okay, so,
We could have pushed it 2 more feet and been okay with the daylight plane. I was just, it's a decently large house.
yeah,
um,
it is.
Yeah, it is.
So, then further on that, if that's a story lives underneath that, I
Yeah,
understand.
correct.
So I guess I'm not also, this is part of my second question, it was more of a design issue because it seems like to me, seems like your siding, the proportion of your siding to your stucco seems off to me. It seems like I mentioned that last time. That's not your floor there. You've got,
Correct.
right? So why did you pick it up so high? You thought that was attractive that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there's two things. It's the bottom of the windows and we only, this was a new planning requirement where the second floor can only be 8 feet. If we could have went 8'6" or 9 feet, we could have got a little bit more siding.
I'm saying working downward.
Well,
So, yeah.
understood.
So you have the window on the edge of the stucco.
Siding and the stucco.
Okay. So like the look on the little house, I guess I'm not supposed to say that because it's a comment on the ADU. ADU is the best looking thing on the site. But I guess piggybacking on the look, I guess proportionally, I was surprised not to see more stucco on this one. I mean, less stucco, I guess, more siding. So it was proportional, but
We can come back as an FYI if we forward with approval.
I might
I'm
anyone think that,
open
but
for it.
yeah.
I mean, every design has something to always have let's look at this, but it
okay.
can be a FYI. I understand what your comment is.
Was just a thought. But I might be the only one who thinks that. So
No.
those were really I just didn't understand what was going on there and what you were doing. So those were my questions. So I'm going to open it to the public, I guess, for, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Say one more.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to, I'll follow up on that, Chair Pfaff. Tim, is there, and I know there's a design reason around the height of this stucco parapet, I guess?
Yep.
Is there a way to bring it, I see it's on all elevations, not all of it is a parapet, but it seems that maybe you could benefit from a little bit more siding on that second story and bring that parapet down. I see why the question initially was, is this a roof deck? Because it looks like, I know it's 2'7.5" tall, that kind of top of that parapet. But any reason why you couldn't just bring it down and also reduce the massing from the neighbor, seeing the tall stucco wall, and then carry that line all the way around the house so you can have more siding on the second story and not need that railing, if you will?
I agree. We can do that back as an FYI. I can do that.
Okay,
I get where you're coming from.
okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the more architectural explanation.
I agree with both.
But I wasn't quite.
But she said it more elegant.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
But I can make that change as an FYI.
Okay.
I understand where you're coming from, and it was your comment initially,
Mhm.
and I didn't 100% address it. So I will do that.
Could I ask one more question?
Of course.
Just the thought process for the clear story above the garage door?
Well, we have to make up 4 feet. I mean, the house is, it's just that. And I'm just trying to line up windows. If
I
you
was-
get rid of the clear story in the garage, it just looks weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a cool look.
At first, it read like you were going to do RV parking in the garage. It looked like-
Yeah, it's, well,
Well, if you do that though, because I was going to ask something exactly the same. I think you need to really be careful because it looks like it's, to me, it looks like it's oversized for the garage door. So if you looked at it fast, it almost looks like it's too wide for the space underneath. So you might want to refine that just to make sure that I don't know, just things line up. You know, it might just be a couple inches on each side, but it would be like tighten it up. But anyway.
okay.
So, all right, so I need to open it up to, oh wait, right? need to open it up to,
Sorry, one more.
no, that's okay. Go ahead.
Like processing a lot of through this. Tim, you mentioned potentially gravel under as the surface in the crawl space, and then you mentioned that like a rat-proof slab. So
That will be up to like the civil engineer and the structural, and basically the rat slab is not structural. It's mostly up to the civil engineer and what FEMA recommends.
right. Well, my point on it is that the gravel is permeable.
Correct.
And then the rat slab really isn't. So
Correct.
really kind of just a surface for the water to just glide past and quickly.
Correct.
Is there any benefit to it being permeable so that some of the water is getting absorbed below and not just flowing through?
We're basically going to do what FEMA tells us is the recommended. I don't 100% know. The one that we're doing in Napa right now is not completed, and they haven't, we're doing a rat slab is what's on the approved, but we're having a specialist come out to double check on that project. So, but
I'm just
you-
thinking that out in Napa where it's more rural, you might have, I don't know, your rich property, you're obviously.
Yep.
But in this case, because it's pretty compact, we've got properties right up against this property, there's multiple homes. And we know that this is the low point of the property.
Yep.
It seems that the more that we can provide a permeable surface, the better for everyone. More that you can almost ignore that there's a house on top because it's waters.
in our building submittal, we'll confirm with FEMA just to make sure, and we'll get their recommendation. Have that. We can do that as an FYI along with the siding.
I would actually argue the other point. I would actually want the water to leave. I wouldn't want the water in there because there's no sunlight going to get in there. There's nowhere for that water to go other than down. And when it's saturated, it's not going anywhere.
Well, and it's
So then you're gonna have the same lake that there's actually out in the middle of the property now.
mostly clay and
So I'd rather it leave and get to the catch basin in one of the other vehicles so it gets out.
The catch basin's in front of it. It's not like the catch basins are behind this house.
Well, but if everything is kind of sloping to the middle, which it kind of already is now,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it
Yeah.
should go.
Anyway, it was more a question just about, is it better to have a permeable or non-permeable surface?
that's the question.
But I would go.
There's two ways. Again, we'll leave that up to Travis and we'll confirm that with FEMA. And we'll get a definite answer.
Thank you.
Okay, did I see another question coming? No, all right, very good. Then if we're all done, then I am going to ask if there's
Thank you.
anybody, thank you. If there's anybody in the public who would like to speak or ask a question. Yes. Mhm. Come, yes, you may come up.
I want to thank the board for being public-minded citizens and going through these hearings. And I want to thank the developer for speaking with us. And I want to thank the neighbors who have gotten together out of our mutual concern for this project. My name is Jonathan Friedman. I live at 1312 Edge Hill Drive, which is behind the furthest ADU. So just going to your point first, and the point about the gravel. Every year, a mosquito abatement person comes to our property and says, there's standing water behind you. And you have some water in your bird bath. And there are mosquitoes there. And mosquitoes carry diseases. So I don't think there has been any attention to the fact that standing water under dwellings with the wind not being able to come through there and the water not being able to go down into the soil has been discussed. So I think this is a very important aspect. It's not just aesthetics, and it's not just opinion. but it's the families that live there will have the problem of mosquitoes as it's constituted now. That's one point. Now, I want to go to the larger issue. The larger issue is there are too many young people in California who can't afford to live in California, and they're leaving the state because of that. And at the same time, California, like the whole world, is experiencing the beginnings of climate change that are making our weather patterns, fires and floods, rising waters, much more dangerous. This is the low point of an area where the water comes all the way from the bay and from the streets like California Avenue, all the way down into this area. It has a drain system that is currently inadequate to take the water. And on my street, which is called Edge Hill Drive, there are no drains. And that's a hill, Edge Hill. So I think that this property should be looked at not only as a property for this hearing. Is that all the time I have?
Normally, yes. If you want to just finish your sentence,
No, I want to continue because I have a lot to say.
I'm going to ask.
And I personally
Ask
did not
attorney.
hear a lot of what he said
Mhm.
and what you said, so I'm trying to qualify those things. I have a lot more to say.
So it's up to the chair. You could give an additional minute, but we'd want to keep steady with whatever.
Can you do 1 minute as best you can?
I'm gonna write about this because I am a journalist and an author. So if you're trying to shut me up,
No.
we'll be in
I'm not trying
my
to
article.
shut you up.
One more minute.
Fair.
No one told me I had a certain amount of time limit.
Yes, I actually did. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
So another concern is aesthetics, and I want to compliment the architect. I think the building that has been built and replacing the other one is very nice, nicely done. Good job. I think that my concern for my particular property is where will that water go that is now sinking into the earth from 900 Paloma? It seems there's going to be a lot more hardscape, and the water will come under the ADU next to my property. And then where will it go? Is there any barrier between the water under the ADU to my property, which is more or less on the same level? Is there any barrier to it? Is there any drain that will take the water from the side at the fence and carry it away so it doesn't come to my property? Will there be any way that I can be indemnified, excuse me, if all these good plans do not work and excess water is dumped to my property? And finally, there are two trees, and I heard it mentioned, but I couldn't hear what was said, that are in jeopardy. One is on my property, and it's a towering California redwood tree, but the roots probably go underneath to 900 Paloma. The other is a palm tree, which is literally 3 feet behind my back fence. And one of these is marked in the latest plan I saw, noted protect redwood tree in big letters. I do not see big letters to protect the palm tree. I wish they were there. And I wonder if that in the future tree could be cut down, or if this is just for the beginning of the construction. And I want to thank you all for giving me a little extra time.
Of course. So, do we have anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Yes? One at a time, whoever wants first. Sure. Can you come up? Excuse me, could you?
But no,
I
but
think it has to be recorded. Thank you.
I live at 1316 Edge Hill Drive next to Jonathan, and Tim is asking for a 8-foot fence variance.
I am asking it because you guys wanted it.
Right,
And we paid for the extra cost.
okay.
It's up to
And that,
you guys, depending on, some people might want the 8. If you don't want the 8, we can go back to standard, but.
we want
Yeah.
the 8.
Okay.
Okay, and that covers our property.
All 3 sides.
Okay. And my other question is, you mentioned some trees and plants. Will they be planted on that south side as well?
Yes, and when we get to that point, we will contact the neighbors and we will place them, not in the ground, we'll place them where they need to be. And then you can approve it or say, hey, add 2 or add 3 or move it to the south. We can do that, and I do that all the time with.
Okay,
neighbors.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Jay Veach. We have the property next door adjacent to 900 at 904, 906 Paloma. Answer one of the questions that the board had. The water actually comes down into that catch basin from 2 major tributaries that have been here obviously since day one. Sanchez Creek, which comes down, feeds into this catch basin where our properties are located, and then ends up going across the freeway through the culverts into the lagoon on the other side of the freeway. We have been experiencing huge floods in the last couple of years especially, but this drainage system that Burlingame has, we all know is inadequate. We run through floods on El Camino Real, which is substantially higher than what our are right now. And it's only going to get worse. The hardscape that's uphill floods waters down here. We don't have the capacity to discharge it out from where our properties are. All of us have multiple sump pumps in our properties. We have 3. Our neighbor has 5. And right now they're doing what they could do. They pump water from here to there, and then it comes right back to here again because there's no way to just get the water out of here. So to impact the property that Tim has done a great job developing and his ideas are wonderful, but the problem is when you put pressure on top of the ground that is already the lowest point, especially if you put rat proofing down on it, you're sealing nature's way of actually perking the water down and getting it off the property through its natural flow to the bay. You catch it, it's going to disperse it and get it back onto our property and the other 7 properties that butt up against this particular project. Minute and 8 left, but I'll give it my best shot. The stilt program that they've come up with to remedy what used to be the moat, obviously that's something that could be done. You can build a house on stilts. It's done in Louisiana. It's done all over, right? I don't think that there's another house in Burlingame, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that's built on stilts. And if the planning commission's here to make sure that our properties are not compromised in any way by design flows that have, I would say, an irregular building type of thing on our adjacent property, part of the planning commission is make sure that all properties fit into the neighborhood. I'm not sure that this does that, but that's going to be something that the planning commission is going to have to do with. But I agree with Audrey that, in my opinion, gravel would be a better way to go to perk that water off that property and not rat proof it. But I'm open to any questions you may have for me. Ding. Oh, with that, I timed
I
it.
mean, yeah, you did a good job. Thank you for your comments. Next.
I'm Michael Barber. I'm the one that wrote that long email.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Had lots of conversations
Mhm.
and Kevin and Martin.
Can you get closer to the mic?
Yes.
Mhm.
So I live at 1316 Palm Drive. I'm on the Stormwater Committee. I work on flood, sea level rise issues in the county. So that's why I was interested in this. I think it's really important for you to understand that this is a beginning of a new era, basically. And so I appreciate the issue, rat proofing versus gravel. Those are going to be important issues. And yes, there's the issue of you don't want water sitting around because of mosquitoes, but that's the nature of where this place is. We need to know how to build on water, basically. That's what we're looking at. This is building on water. And so the way we do it, I've talked to Martin, he talked about the floodgates or flaps or so forth. I guess that works. I mean, that's why I was suggesting the stilt idea, because this is the first of potentially many other things that are going to come to the commission in the flood zone, and adding more building and more, yeah, okay, the pavers are permeable, but even permeable pavement doesn't hold water all the time. So I'm not going to use the whole 3 minutes. I just want to emphasize my concern is from a flood perspective. Oh, and the one other piece I'll add, the restrictions here are because it's in the 100-year flood zone. I live in a 500-year flood zone, and so does everybody else and I can tell you there are houses up there that would be in a worse shape than and cause more problems than this would, because they're at the bottom. But so keep that in mind. Anything you do with a 100-year floodplain, you may want to consider using whatever policy changes I would suggest thinking about applied in 500 years. So
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments in your letter. Anyone else out there? Then is there anyone by email?
There are no public comment emails.
Mhm. Okay, then with that, I will close the public hearing. And looking for comments from my colleagues.
I'll go.
Okay.
I like the high stucco.
Uh-oh.
He likes the.
She likes the high stucco.
So
I like the 80.
take it for what it's worth.
Different.
I appreciate the effort being put in because we had a lot of questions last time and the whole level of the property and flood. And it seems that a lot of discussion has happened, and it seems like a lot of outreach has happened, which is good. And I feel like a lot of it still comes back to Public Works needs to do their effort in the building permit process to validate stormwater and flow, and that the systems that you're presenting will do that. So I think that it's unfortunate that actually all the water flows to this property and makes this property owner take the brunt. But I can understand where everybody else doesn't have the necessary drains on theirs because it went somewhere else. But at this point, we've got to solve it. So I'm hoping that the catch basin solution, which is pretty innovative, if you ask me, as opposed to just sump pumps. I think that's a good thing. So, but design wise, I'm in support of it. I think the architecture is nice to me. I think that you've done as best you can to get the parking to work and to be able to utilize a multifamily lot, which is what it's zoned for. So I'm good.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Say.
Yeah, I think I also need to just make a clarification that I wasn't in attendance at when this project was first presented, but I have read all the minutes and all of the many letters. And so I am up to speed, and that's why I can speak on the project, but I just want to make sure I stated that. So I think that by virtue of this project, we're actually addressing the problem that the neighborhood is facing, and it's almost forcing a solution to happen. I too wanted to just kind of say publicly that, this poor property is taking on all the water from all the surrounding neighbors. I mean, on the survey, we can't see what the elevation grades are for the surrounding properties. We only see the one for this specific one, but I'm certain that the other ones are also flowing towards this one kind of almost lake-like setting. And so I appreciate that for all this hard work that Tim and his team are going through, that this is going to be a solution in many ways. We're providing additional housing in a state that needs additional housing. You are addressing and being forced to address the stormwater situation. I think the catch basins are a nice solution with that time release of water. It's helping to just contain the flow as it's coming, because of course it's all based on why do floods happen, is because tons of water is landing at the exact same time. So you're just trying to stretch out that time flow of water. And so I think it's a great solution as well. However you decide to address that, the stucco walls, my comment was really based on what Tim had said, that trying to provide something for the neighbor, and what I see is a big, tall, white wall. So I think the reduction in height of that, a little bit more beauty from the siding, might be effective for the neighbor, and not create what potentially could be a roof balcony outside, little party deck out there. I know there's no access to it, but who knows? Somebody could climb through a window, decide they want to use it as a roof deck or balcony. And I think it's best if we just try to avoid that and bring that parapet down, show more siding all the way around. But I wanted to thank all the neighbors who've been so, had so much to share and are so emotional about this project. And I think that that's great. It's just a way for our city to kind of work together and try to find a solution. In this case, this neighborhood. And I appreciate all the research and the long letters that came from Michael Barber. And that's kind of just helped us to move forward with this project. But from a design perspective, which is where we are as the Planning Commission, I think that we've kind of done our job and have addressed the issues from a design perspective, as well as just taking in all the commentary regarding the flood zone that the property's in. Yeah, so I can support the project.
I'm going to just, oh, do you want to speak? I was just going to piggyback on that. I really appreciate the neighborhood involvement. It's always, usually gets a better plan, not always, but usually, and appreciate Tim working with them through the conflicts. And my mom has rat proofing and it's all fallen apart. So the water goes through there anyway. So I guess it just depends. Well, it's an old house. So anyway, I just wanted to add about the comments about the trees, both the palm, because I did see he's protecting the palm. There's nobody here, I don't think, that cares more about trees than me, than myself. And he's protecting the palm, and there is that redwood in the back, and the redwood is probably the size it is because there's been so much nice water around it. So I think that's maybe not a bad thing. And as long as they're careful of their roots around the tree, I think it'll be all fine. And you just need to watch when the contractors are there alone and make sure they're all kind of minding it. So I think it's, besides the points about the same as Audrey about the siding, but I guess it might be personal preference. Did want to just add that with regard to the water, I would plant as many little things there as you can, big and small, because that's going to help get rid of this water. And we are having water problems a lot of times because people are getting rid of their vegetation for whether it's the drought or it's this or that. And that it really, really helps absorb water. And so just be thinking that it's a tool beyond everything else we're talking about. So are there any other comments? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Where's-
To call this lot challenging is an understatement for a lot of different ways. So I want to commend Tim and his team. I mean, I think it's a very clever design. And I'm also very impressed with the due diligence. We've seen the opposite, and it's challenging to the neighborhood, especially when they don't feel like there is a neighborhood outreach. So I'm happy to see that. As far as neighborhood goes, I mean, you have this project flagged by the city. I mean, you have the main civil engineer on it. He knows about it. So you have everything going in your favor to make sure this is going to be designed properly. As a builder, I can tell you countless times that I've installed pavers and turf with a permeable surface like they've designed here. You have 14 inches of subterranean drainage under these pavers. It will absolutely affect the the pooling. I've seen so many times where people have had literally just dirt like you have there, and it acts almost like a full sponge when it rains. The water just kind of pools, and the dirt does not allow any sort of natural drainage. By excavating down the 14 inches they're saying here, you're going to allow for disbursement. And in my experience, that disbursement, it's a big deal. It allows the water to find other ways that maybe it hasn't over the years. The catch basin for their own water is great. They're not going to be adding to the problem. As far as underneath the house, it's a little out of our purview to even comment on it. But as a builder, rat slabs are there for a reason, not just for the rats, but it creates a better area for a crawl space if you ever need to service anything. As far as water going in and out, I'm kind of the opinion of Commissioner Schmidt that you want that water away from your foundation and away from under your house. You don't want it to sit there and saturate. Plus, as far as a percentage of the lot versus crawl space, it's somewhat insignificant in my opinion. So I would want the water to flow out of it and then deal with it after it flows out. Again, that's going to be a job for the civil engineers, which again, I think you have all hands on deck as far as that goes. The last bit was the special variance for the fence. If the neighbors are on board with it for that reason, I'm fine with it. It doesn't. I'd be in favor of that. So I could see this project moving forward.
Just a very minor comment on aesthetics. I noticed that there currently is a strip between the siding and the stucco on the ADU, and there's also some knee braces there. I feel like those would go great on the main structure, the new one. I'm impartial as to whether the wood siding moving down or staying there would necessarily look better. I wouldn't know without seeing it, but I think it's all right where it is, especially if those little details were added. And yeah, it sounds like everything that can be done reasonably is being done here. I feel like generally Burlingame has done a really good job on sea level rise in terms of climate change, maybe not so well in other places, but I'm not sure. I would love to see something like this in the future on a commission item for a study. I think that would do really well. But I think that as far as this project goes, I think it's doing the best it can. So I would be happy to see it move forward.
I just want to add something about the braces. I actually think that's a really good idea. The detail, I hadn't noticed that on the ADU. I think that would be nice because it's almost like starts to be very almost like prairie looking or something, and it give it some definition. So might be something to consider.
Can I comment after you're done?
Open the.
Oh, wait a minute. So I have
We
to,
allow Tim to comment, then
I'm going,
reopen the public.
that's okay. Or we can do that, right? Everybody okay? Yep. All right, here we go.
Good evening, Commission. I will just come back with an FYI with the siding changes, if that's okay with planning.
Maybe look at knee.
Yeah, correct. The
this
siding
too.
and-
Yeah, that might be nice.
Exactly what you had brought up.
Okay. All right.
Staff would actually recommend that if the commission is agreeable to having the applicant add the knee braces and change the siding, that you put that in the motion. And we're trying to get away from bringing things back as FYI. So if you would put that in the motion, we can make it clear, add it in as a condition of approval, and then staff will ensure that that gets put into place when the plans are submitted for a building permit.
Condition of approval is fine too.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to open it up to others who would like to speak. Add any more comments? Okay.
Just add one comment. 'cause I
Fine.
stated
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad there's all this water there. There's a reason all the water's there. And there's a reason why nobody built there before. If you look at the neighbors' houses, that area was a seasonal pond. They didn't build in seasonal ponds. We are building in seasonal ponds now.
Yeah.
That's the point I was trying to make.
Good. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Yes?
I want to thank all the commissioners for listening. And I do want to ask a couple of questions. So it seems like a good idea to have the trees be the kind of trees that suck up more water rather than less water. That would be a very good idea on the whole property. I think the the engineer has to deal with the question of should the water go under, permeate, or should it not? And finally, I'd like to ask, is there any channel or anything to protect our properties from the water going from that property to ours? It's my experience that at least my property and our neighbor's property are on Edge Hill Drive. That the water that comes to us sluices down Edge Hill Drive and comes onto the front of our houses. And we all have several sump pumps to deal with that. I've never seen it reaching across the fence to the neighbor's property. So I am concerned that excess water from the hardscape and all the other factors, all things being equal, if it's going to flow, it's going to flow onto our property. And can I can't pronounce that word. In the future, can I sue if that's the case?
We're just advisory. I have no idea.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do think, and the other thing is I don't see any water being diverted from the fence line into that underground pipe. Is there any, between the ADU property and my fence, is there any channel taking water into that storage place? There is, okay.
That is part of the building approval with Travis Lutz and the property that we did. And we
All
can
right.
review that.
I will. And I do trust you, Tim, when you say things.
Well, you just
Well, I don't want to email you. I want you to take notes on it right now. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you again for your comments. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for staying involved, and Martin, and we've been trying to resolve these issues. So then I'm going to, right? I already closed. I closed it again? Yes, closed. Okay. Now, I guess I'm looking for a motion but it's going to be more complicated, so somebody else can do it.
You got it, Audrey.
Got it.
I will move that we approve, let's see,
Fine.
where are we? We're on action.
Mm-hmm.
I move that we approve the project per the conditions of the staff report with the added conditions of approval where the siding will be addressed on the second story, as well as the knee braces to be added.
And the fence variance.
And the fence variance of 8 feet tall.
Mhm.
That as well.
I would like to second that. Roll call vote, please.
Any comment on the motion?
Oh,
Or,
and-
no? Okay.
All right.
We have Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowenthal.
Aye.
Chair Pfaff.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for everyone. And,
This is appealable.
oh, whoops. It's, oh, I have to read my thing. Wait. It is, any action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $784, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. All righty, now we're going to move on to, we're missing somebody.
Nope.
No, everybody. Hi, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, Andre, all right. So now we are on 10A study review or design review study items. 1522 La Mesa Drive, where any commissioners not able to visit the project site or to any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project.
I'd like to note that I had a conversation with the neighbor at 1530 next door.
Okay, great. Then yes, and let the record note that all commissioners have visited the site. Can we hear the staff report, please? And there's Commissioner Say is recusing from this item. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, this is an application for design review and hillside area construction permit for a first and second story addition to an existing single unit dwelling and expansion of the attached garage at 1522 La Mesa Drive, zoned R1. The applicant is proposing to improve the lower floor, replace the existing attached one-car garage with a new two-car attached garage, and additions to the first and second floors of the house. With this application, the floor area would increase from 3,288 square feet to 5,400 square feet, where 7,832 square feet is the maximum allowed. The subject property is located within the hillside overlay zone, which requires that hillside development be designed to preserve existing distant views to San Francisco Bay, the San Francisco Airport, and Mills Canyon from primary indoor living areas. The existing house contains 4 bedrooms, and with this project, the number of bedrooms would increase to 6, 3 parking spaces, 2 of which must be covered or required on site. The existing attached one-car garage would be demolished and replaced with a new attached two-car garage in the same location, and that would provide the 2 covered parking spaces. 1 uncovered space is provided in the driveway. The project includes a new 800 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit. Staff has determined that the ADU complies with ADU regulations. At the Planning Commission Design Review Study meeting on December 11th, 2023, the Commission had several comments and suggestions regarding this project. Given that the project is located in the hillside overlay area and the project includes raising the roof height, the Commission asked that the application be brought back for review as a design review study item after the story poles have been installed so that the property can be properly evaluated. The applicant submitted a response letter dated February 2nd, 2024, and revised plans dated January 16th, 2024 to address your comments and concerns at the last study meeting. Since the initial meeting on December 11th, story poles have been installed and surveyed as required. Staff notes that the story poles reflect the revised project, including the changes proposed to the project design in response to your comments. And that concludes my summary of the staff report. If you have any questions for staff, we can take those now.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? No? All right, then. Going to ask the applicant to come forward, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see you all again. You can see we made some significant changes to our
Can you please give us your name for the record?
Jeff Quinte.
Jeff, hi, Jeff.
Yes, hi. Yes, so we took a lot of your comments. We went into the direction of French Colonial, revised our entry accordingly, added quite a bit of trim, some nice windows, extended the overhangs. I hope you like it.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? No? Or? No? Okay. I just have one. I'm trying to understand the back. Can I see the side, the rear? On the rear, yeah. I'm trying to understand what's well, where the porch is. Is that, yeah. Guess I'm trying to understand. Well, the rendering is different than this, but I know we're supposed to go by this.
Yes,
Yeah.
a little hard to see here in 2 dimensions. But what
So
we
it's
did,
sort of a semicircle?
yeah, we created an arc in the rear deck, so it's not a straight railing. Sort of match some of the other arches that we put around the house. And we intend to do some of this in the inside as well. We did move the stairs from the exterior to the interior.
Oh, got it.
It's what we were one of the concerns from the previous design was that the stairs were too long of a run. So we decided to put them inside the deck as opposed to outside.
Am I understanding that there are no grids that match the front? Are they all plain windows? The windows in the back? They don't, they have no.
No, we did this in the front for the style of the home.
Yeah.
In the rear, we'd like to be able to have a clear view. So that was the purpose. It's not carried through in the rear of the house.
Okay. Any other questions?
The railing on the deck is called out as wrought iron. Is it
Yes.
true wrought iron or hollow aluminum tubing?
It will be a wrought iron railing. Yes.
Commissioner Gallant?
No,
A quick question for you on the lower floor plan where the deck overhangs.
yes.
What is that material? What is the ground going to be? Is it just raw dirt or is it going to be some sort of finished material?
The landings outside.
Landings and then in between the landings. Basically right underneath the deck. What is the surface going to be on the?
Well, it's just landings outside of the doors because there's a slope there.
Yeah.
So it's just simply landings out to the walkway around the building.
Okay, and then just maybe planting or gravel.
The landscape architect will determine what he wants, what materials he wants to use. But we're looking at stepping stones and not a lot of hardscape. We want to be able to let the water stay
Okay, thank you.
into the ground.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then do we have anyone, yes, from the public?
Commissioners, I am
Can you speak into the microphone, please? You can lower it. Yeah.
Mrs. Sayadan. We have wrought iron railings, and I like to get the commissioner's permission to change that to glass railings on the balcony, on the deck if possible. And in the front, the windows have grids. And if the commissioners allow it, I would like to keep the shape of the windows, but just make them solid so they would be the same as the ones in the back. They will all be solid. They will still be with arches, but it will not have grid lines, squares in them, or just clear view, if that is allowed. So currently, that's what we have, and because we wanted to change it based upon the commissioner's recommendation to make it more architectural. If you would allow, we like that. If not, we just keep it. I just wanted to ask.
Oh, of course. So we can do that in the comment section, maybe. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Is there anyone, I need to ask also if there are emails are about this, but I want to finish from the floor. Is there anyone else? No? Okay.
If you can come up to the podium, please. Thank you.
My name is Charles Verlinden. I live at 1517.
Can you get a little closer, Charles? Thank you.
Now there's story poles there. Is that the height of the proposed roof?
Of the new.
Is that a variance?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Don't think so. I think it's perfectly fine, but it's just to give you an idea of what the bulk is going to look like.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So are there any comments from the comments from email?
We did have one public comment email submitted, so I'll go ahead and read that now. This is from occupants of 1521 La Mesa Drive. Ahead of the public meeting on Monday, March 25th, 2024, regarding the project set at 1522 La Mesa Drive, I would like to reiterate my disapproval of the proposed height extension. Per the proposed build, as illustrated by the shared photos, the increased height of the roof would partially obstruct the current skyline view from our residence. Further, per conversation with our other neighbor, they have also expressed dissatisfaction with the project, citing similar unfavorable implications. I hope members of the board and the owner of the 1522 La Mesa Drive understand that we cherish our skyline view as an asset of our residences and hope they can reconsider advancing plans for elevation. Thank you. And you have copies of those photos that were attached to this public
With
comment email.
the net on it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Do. Thank you.
And that was all for public comments.
Okay, thank you very much. So I guess I close the public hearing then, seeing no more comments, and then we can move to us. Commissioners. And also the issue of the grids.
I can start. I like the project a lot. I think it looks really nice. It's a big house, but big lot, and everything seems to be within all the code requirements. There's no variances for height and things like that. I certainly am sensitive to the views. It was hard to see this from the street level, but the photos are very helpful. I'm just going to change lanes real quick. As far as the grids go in the front of the house, based on the other houses on the street, I actually don't have a problem not having grids. In general, I think windows look a lot better with the grids, but the surrounding houses all are without them. So it seems to be okay. And then as far as glass on the rear railing, I also think that that's fine for me. But all in all, I'd be okay with this moving forward to action.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel
Right.
compelled to read the view preservation code every time we have this because the photos were really helpful, but I don't think they block the view that's covered by the hillside overlay. So it's view preservation. Hillside development shall be designed to preserve existing distant views. View preservation shall be limited to obstruction of distant views of the bay, the airport, and Mills Canyon from primary indoor living areas, that is living rooms and family rooms. So I think the house does not get in the way of those views as far as I can see. This style is not my personal favorite, but I think it's an improvement from the first round. There are a few details that look a little bit off to me that might need to be refined. The faux stone work in the corners and the corners of the building look a little bit off where they hit the roof eaves. They're meant to look like they're supporting something and it just goes right to a roof eave. So I think there's some work that can be done there. And then the two dormers in the front of the house, just the overhangs look unnaturally large because it's the same as the larger main roof. So there's something off in the proportions of the dormer roof in the way I'm looking at it. Unfortunately, I think this house looks better with grids in the windows because otherwise it starts morphing towards a modern and the glass on the deck would do the same. I'm not opposed to glass on the deck. I actually don't like wrought iron, so but that's a subjective view on my part. It's really, I think, the dormer overhangs and the stone kind of faux stone corners that just look a little bit off to me.
I'm going to continue. I think you, with this style, you decided this is the style. So I think the commitment has to be there. And if you commit to the style, then you commit to the style, which is grids. To me, has to be grids. So, but then I don't therefore understand the back not having any. It would be nice to have, I would love to be able to say, oh, fine, no grids anywhere. It'll look great, but I think it will look very strange with this house, me personally. And I think it would look better in the back to put some grids so it holds together. With the glass, I think if you had the grids in there, the glass wouldn't bother me so much. but it is a more modern look. So I guess I'd be fine with the glass if there are grids in the back. I guess that's the way of saying it. Is it, you want to have the majority of something sort of being in the character of the home that you've chosen. I think the comments my colleague has about the stones and such it's hopefully just little detailing, but that's true. The dormers are a little heavy. This two side ones are kind of heavy. Middle one's kind of cool. So anyway, those are my comments. Oh, and I really appreciate you retaining the oak tree. This first time I actually saw the trees in the plan. I didn't see them before. So that's a great tree. Helps it all set in. It's a big house. And all of your landscaping, that was great that you did that. So that's it for me, I think. Gwen,
I can go.
Commissioner Schmidt.
I'm fine with the glass railing in the back. Just given the fact that this is a view home. I'm okay with no grids on the lower, bigger windows in the living areas. I could see having the grids on the upper floor windows, but I'm not that worried about it. But the grids in the front really are going to make a big difference in the style of this home. And I think that is it's a positive, actually. I agree with Commissioner Haran about the proportion on the dormer. It just needs a little work. But otherwise, I think it's come a long way from where we saw it the first time, and it has now a style to it. And I think it will add value to that street.
I really like the design. I think it's a great improvement. I think the expression of the style is really generally well done. I think that because of that, I would definitely like to see the divided lights remain. If they weren't there, I would probably be asking about them. I think that in order to really lean into this design, that's kind of necessary. I don't think that's the same for the back. And I would be, although I do think that wrought iron railing will look nice, I'm also totally fine with glass, if the other commissioners are all right with that. I agree with my other commissioners' comments about the dormers. I will also say in terms of blending the coining, the stonework on the corners, I think that I don't see that being a big issue up in the eave, but between the front door and the garage door, some of those corners and the coining kind of just stops, and it looks like they're overhanging a little bit. It's not necessary to continue those all the way down into the earth. There's a slope there, but the same way that some attention might be needed to blend those coinings in with the eaves, I think attention should also put a little attention into blending those at the bottom there between the entrance and the garage. That's all I have to say.
So I think this has gone a long way. I appreciate all the changes. I think that a glass railing is fine. I agree with my fellow commissioners that I believe that if you're going to do grids, you have to be committed to the grids. So I like the grids on the front of the house. So what I would ask is you continue that to the back. I'm not opposed not having grids under the deck, because I feel like that's kind of a dark area anyway. And so having more grids under that deck might kind of feel a little tight and dark under there. So having just open glass windows and doors there, I'm totally okay if my fellow commissioners agree with me. But I would do grids up at the top.
Where are we going?
Just want to thank Commissioner Shores for teaching me the word coining.
Coining, yeah.
And so being more specific, on sheet 810, the one I'm having difficulty with is the one that seems to just come out of the roof of the garage and go into the middle of the eaves. So the coining that's truly like in the corners, I'm okay with, but that one just looks off to me. And with respect to the divided lights, yeah, I do like them. I think, there's a compromise there somewhere. Maybe there are some windows on the back facade that we could agree doesn't require divided lights, but I think the two sides in the front should really have them.
So since the design study item, I'll make a motion that we bring this back on action
Mhm.
We've given a fair amount of feedback and we've received a fair amount of movement since the first submittal, so I feel good about it.
I'll second that.
Great. Then roll call vote, please. Oh, I should say, motion made by Commissioner Schmidt, seconded by Commissioner Lowenthal. So we need a roll call to bring it back on, what do we say? Action.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowenthal,
Aye.
Chair Pfaff.
Aye. Thank you very much. All right. Next, we're on item 10B, 14 Channing Road, where any commissioner is not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? No recusals, okay. Let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the site. We hear the staff report, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. This application is for design review for a new first floor addition, new second story to an existing single unit dwelling, as well as a variance for the first floor front setback and the second floor front setback. This subject property is on an interior lot with an existing single unit dwelling and a detached garage. The applicant is proposing to demolish most of the existing first floor walls and the entire existing second floor, which is located within the existing roof structure. This project includes a major renovation of the first floor, a first floor addition at the rear of the dwelling, and an entirely new second story. This project also includes converting a portion of the existing detached garage into an ADU. The proposed floor area is 3,239 square feet, where 3,268 square feet is the maximum allowed. The front setback of the existing house is non-conforming at 9 feet and 10 inches, where 16 feet and 1 inch is the minimum required front setback based on the average of the block. The proposed project includes rebuilding the existing first floor wall at the front of the house in the same non-conforming setback. Thus, the applicant is requesting a variance for the first floor front setback. The front wall of the new second story is proposed to be built on top of the first floor wall. Therefore, a variance is also being requested for the second floor front setback. The dwelling would contain 4 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces, one of which must be covered, are required for a 4-bedroom house. 1 covered parking space is provided in the detached garage, and 1 uncovered parking space is provided in the driveway. Per the code, no parking is required for the ADU because it is part of an existing accessory structure. Lastly, the site contains 2 existing non-protected size multi-trunk trees at the rear of the lot, which will be removed. The proposed landscape plan shows 3 new 24-inch box landscape trees to be planted. Based on the proposed floor area, 3 landscape trees are required, so the project complies with tree reforestation ordinance requirements, and the existing street tree will be retained. Several emails in support of the proposed project were submitted to the Planning Division, and copies of these emails have been placed at your desk for reference. Staff is available for any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I definitely have questions. I wonder if you could tell me specifically how much of the house, the first floor, the footprint and such, everything is going to be remaining, I guess. What will stay? What is being taken away? What percentage? If you could.
Maybe I can answer that. So typically on a single story addition, we are very careful about calculating how much of the exterior walls are being removed to determine whether or not it triggers design review. In this case, because a whole new second floor was being proposed, we didn't really look at that specifically because that in and of itself triggered the design review. But here we have a floor plan, existing floor plan and showing the walls being demolished. but just by looking at it, looks like it's more than 50% of the exterior walls, including all the interior walls. Perhaps the applicant can also tell us kind of what the plan is for demolition and retaining or keeping existing walls.
Okay. Great. All right, that was mainly my question of staff. So question of staff? More questions? No? Okay. All right, then I'm going to open the public hearing and ask the applicant to come forward.
Good evening, Commission. Tim Rudines, project designer. The owners are right next to me as well. They might speak. It seems like we're the only ones here, thankfully. To answer your question, Jennifer, the variance is it did happen fairly late in the process. I did do the calculation. The existing lineal feet of the house is 162 feet, 10 inches. According to my calculation, we are at 82 feet, 10 inches, where the minimum amount required to be saved is 81 feet, 6 inches. We can make it even more saved if we keep the irregular windows. We were centering them. If you can go to the 3D, please. I think that could be part of the conditions of approval. We can include that on our next round. So that answers the question that you had.
Well,
we are just over 50% by like a foot. And we can show that on the floor, the existing demo plan. We can do I already did it, but it didn't make it in the packet. So
I guess my bigger question is, because this is a very diminutive house as it is, and
it is.
as it's closer, you don't really notice it because it's small. So I guess my question is, this is basically a new house, what you're building. So
very close, correct.
it is very close.
Yep.
So what do you feel? I guess I want to ask you, why do you feel you
I have a lot of
get a
feeling.
variant?
Yeah.
Why would this be first of all, for the first floor, but then the second one as well? Why would this be a good candidate for a variance?
Okay.
What are your reasons, real reasons?
I will give you real reasons.
Yeah.
A lot of them are in my variance response. Most of this has to do with the layout of this lot. Being next door on the right side of this lot, there are backyards, giving us more neighbors to make happy. Make happy. Remember that. We have 10 letters of happiness. Happiness, not angry people. The reason that we kept the house forward facing is because the neighborhood context is that. Every house on that block is like 12 feet, 16 feet, 8, 9 feet. We're not pushing the house. The house is there. It is one of the oldest houses on that block. It created that context of all those houses being that close, because that house is from like that house was built in 1914. That is one of the major goods and the reason why it has a special character, because it was, number one, it was one of the first houses there. So it created that rhythm of that whole neighborhood. A lot of those neighbors are not demoing those houses. This is not a demo area. People remodel what they have. There's a couple houses just down the road that look awesome because they remodeled what was there. They've added and remodeled.
They also have a setback.
Well, no, they're like at 14 feet. They're not
yours.
Well, they're not 16 feet. The neighbor 2 doors down in the Tudor has that rhythm. They just remodeled it. They are not at the setback. They're at their existing setback. That comes into play where I know we're saying we're asking for a first floor variance. I will make sure that we keep over 50% of the walls. So that takes care of one of the conditions. We are asking for a variance for the second floor. We're removing the whole roof because that's what we're doing. The conditions are that you have to protect not only our privacy, but the neighbors. So that's the special comment or the special or the I actually did not bring the variance with me, but that is the extraordinary circumstance that we are against. Our right side of the property has 3 rear yards that we're protecting the views. We are keeping a compact first floor, and there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, privacy of the neighbors and for us. We have an existing garage accessory unit in the back that we are keeping a garage and an ADU on the same footprint that's there and still leaving them with a nice sized backyard. We're not going to create a very large new home there. We're kind of just, we're building off of what's there.
Well, all right, I'm going to let I don't want to
But that-
dominate.
yep,
So,
Founder?
anyone else have any questions?
Tim,
Yes.
did you look at any second story plans that would meet the setback?
We've looked at it, correct. But all that ends up doing is pushing more square footage towards the back, creating less privacy for the neighbors and losing backyard space. That, I know the backyard space is it's not really something that we can call as an option, but we're trying to keep the massing towards the front of the lot, protect the neighbors and us, because really all those windows on the sides don't look into any of the backyards because it's already front facing.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why we have the 10+ letters of happiness, not angry about their neighbors building an addition.
Yeah, Commissioner. Juan?
I have a couple questions for you, Tim.
Sure.
On the siding, on the elevation, it looks like it changes dimension, or is that just the way I'm looking at it?
And the top,
Yeah, the top and
the top was thinner and
Yeah.
it's a detail that I've done in the past and it looks, to me, it just gives a little bit more of a good textural change without doing a lot. It's a cool kind of transitional look.
Yeah, I'm not against it, just,
Yep, no, it
that
wasn't a
was-
mistake.
and then any rationale behind the standing seam metal roof next to it?
We are on the bubble. We could go with or without it. I know it's kind of a influx depending on what kind of style it is, but when you look at the 3D, you really don't see the stainless or the standing seam. We could be okay just going with regular architectural shingles. We could go either way on that.
Great. And then on the left elevation, that little mudroom door, what size is that door?
It's just a 2.8.
I assume you're limited because of the gas meter.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just real, I think they're
Yeah,
gonna that door every day and it's pretty small.
Yes, I know. We'll see if we can get a 210 or even a 3-foot door. But we're very, I mean, I use the surveyor's, dimensions and we're right. So,
Fair enough. And then just the little roof above that door, what is that material?
it's just flat roof. It would be a rubber and it'll be slightly pitched to the outside. It'd be a flat roof, flat rubber roof.
That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, well,
I don't have questions.
all right. Well, then I'm going to go back.
I have a quick
Oh, yeah.
question. Tim, have you thought about, you're going to keep the metal roof on the front, maybe on that side where that side door is, do a little metal roof there as
We-
well?
We could definitely do that.
I just feel like that square there just kind of feels
It-
odd.
I think in the 2D, it looks a little odd, and I think we could do that.
Maybe?
Yep, no, I think the owners are a little bit on the fence with that too. We will change that. We'll make that change.
And maybe some corbels there as well, like the front.
Correct.
All right, so I guess so I'm going to ask you, because I have them in front of me. What are these are the exceptional and extraordinary circumstances. Now, I live in this neighborhood, just so you know, I'm very familiar with,
Correct.
and my house is older than that one. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved that do not generally apply to the same district. The second one is the granting of the application is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right of the applicant, well, we all say that, and to prevent unreasonable property loss or unnecessary hardship. The next one is the granting of the application would not be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity and would not be detrimental to the public health, safety, general welfare, or convenience. And the last one is the property would be compatible with the aesthetic, mass, bulk, and character of existing and potential uses of property in the general vicinity. So you are saying, which one are you saying you felt applied?
All
of them?
All of them, yeah.
Okay.
Again, it's the context of the neighborhood. And the extraordinary circumstance is we have additional neighbors to consider on our right side. We are backing up. It's not applicable to everyone. This isn't.
I have that too.
Okay,
So you know-
well, are you,
yeah.
you're on.
I am on
on a-
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
It's close. I'm next to a corner. I know exactly what you're talking about, but
So,
yeah.
So that's what we're standing on with that. The rest of them is, we are keeping the square footage of the first floor almost existing to where it is today. So that is where we keep all of the hardships and all of the neighbor gripes about having too big of a house there. It's already there. And that's the reason we, on the back side, above the family room, we have a flat roof. And that's to keep the massing away. So we're not exacerbating the second floor and making a huge house out of this. We are trying to stay on this footprint. We're trying to stay in this footprint, number one, because we have to keep 50% of the walls, remember? So that's what we're doing. But we are keeping the mass of the house kind of existing. We are adding second story, but all of it's facing more front facing on the lot. So that helps the neighbors not have issues with losing sun, losing privacy. And that also affects the neighbors as well. It's two-way street. So.
Okay, so.
And we do have and also we have a larger existing structure in the back that we're keeping a one-stall garage, which a lot of people don't do anymore. And we have an ADU, which I know you can't look at, but it's part of the design process.
So this is almost maxed out, this house.
It is.
Okay, so, all right.
And we have a lot of, as we're looking at the landscape plan, green means green space, which means grass.
It means artificial turf.
We can go to
right.
real grass.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
we're going to move on.
Yeah.
So I need to ask if there's anyone, first of all, are we all done? Yeah, oh, with questions. Now we're on the questions. Yeah. So then, anything? No, all right. So asked for public comment then?
We need to go to members of the public to see.
Oh, yes, members of the public. No members of the public? No.
And no public comment emails submitted other than what you have on your desks.
Okay.
The happy letters.
Mm-hmm.
If staff can also clarify that the removal of 50% of the exterior walls only has to do with determining whether the project triggers design review or not whether it's a new house.
Yeah, that's what I
I
figured.
just want to make that clear.
I thought so. Okay. All right, then I'm going to close the public comment, I guess.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone want to start?
I want to start.
Okay.
I can appreciate the request for the variance on the second floor and the fact that this property is towards the front of the lot. But the number that is used for that average setback is skewed by another house that is actually significantly further back and doesn't actually reflect the rhythm of that street. This house is a little in front of its neighbor, but not much. And its neighbor to the other side is pointing the other direction. So I don't actually have any qualms with the request for the variance on it because I think that it does do a good job of leveraging a compact design. And it doesn't lack articulation because of it. Many times we just two-story up and it just looks like a two-story box. But I think that the designer has done a good job of breaking this up and making it look a little smaller than it is and not accentuating the higher plate heights. So I'm in favor of this project. I actually like it quite a bit. My one request is that we note that the second story wall on the back, which is, or on the left side, is 2 feet back from the front wall. I'd like it to stay that way and not come forward and square out, because then I think it would actually look like a bad second story addition. So as long as that's maintained on the front and back there, then that will accomplish what you intended it to. So otherwise support the project.
Other comments?
No, go ahead, Sean.
Okay. I agree with my fellow Commissioner Schmidt on the variance. I can definitely find for the first floor makes perfect sense as an existing home. So unless we're making them tear the whole thing down, that makes sense. So the second story, I think it would be a struggle to meet code. I think it would look odd to try to set back the second story to code requirements. Of course, it could be less than what it is, but I like the way the house looks. My question about the standing seam metal roof, because the house is dark, which we're not supposed to comment on color, it doesn't bother me architecturally. I just don't see the need for it. You have a lot of things going on with this house. A lot of interest. You have changing and siding in 3 different spots, plus these belly bands and large moldings. There's a lot to look at. I don't think you need the standing seam. As a contractor, I'll just say, the less changes, the less money. So do yourself a favor, save your money on the roof. But I do like the changes in materials. The stucco to the siding is very nice. And I think it's a well thought out design. So I could see this moving forward.
Okay, well, I'm just going to go right in there. Sorry. Oh, no, you go ahead.
Oh, you can go first.
Yeah. So I cannot, I mean, at most, I could see a second, I mean, variances are very special. We don't give them out all the time, very rarely. Usually it's because there's something special underneath and you're keeping a lot of it, or there's a tree, or there's something that you're trying, something architectural that you're trying to save. That's not the case. This is a new house. So I feel that everyone's got the same problem in our area. Nobody wants the neighbor to do a project. I mean, it's really what it is. Too much bulk. They want their privacy. Totally get it. But if everyone came up here and said, well, my house, the remnants of my house are already here, so I want to stay here. Then they should actually just leave the first floor where it is and build a second story at the proper setback. And I think you could do that. You're a good architect. You could do it. So you haven't looked into it, but you could do it. Wouldn't necessarily look like that, but it would be nice. So I'm actually not in agreement with the 2 commissioners who have spoken. I think at the most I could see the bottom if a significant amount was saved. and a different design for the top. It's not a bad house, but it looks very flat. It's so flat to the front and it's so close to the street. I believe it is not in the pattern of the streetscape at all. So those are my comments.
So,
Say.
yeah, thank you. I'm kind of reacting to Tim making the statement that the front setback or the current front of the house is much in character with the street. When we're looking at a setback table of this property being 9.8 feet from the front property line, and most of the others, you know, double digits, 14, 15, 18 feet away. And I think that when we have seen front variance requests where we're talking about a couple of feet, very close, and most houses are along the same line, that makes a lot of sense. And like Chair Pfaff is saying, variances are a special item to grant. And I see that at the very best, that the first floor could be granted that variance, but even as, the first thing I look at is the floor plan. And I'm looking at the spaces, I'm looking at the dimensions of the rooms. For all intents and purposes, this is a new home. And the front bedroom at over 15 feet front to back dimension seems large for a guest space. Seems like that could be reduced pretty easily. That mudroom is very generous. Maybe it doubles as a laundry room too. Let me see, where's the laundry room? No, that's upstairs. So it's a large mudroom. Seems that also that could be reduced in dimension. And very easily you can at least come closer to some of the 14 feet setback homes on the street. I realize a lot of your neighbors are happy. They don't want to see the massing of the house grow in terms of the footprint, but I'm not sure if everyone's really getting the feel of how the second story is going to look when that's just a flat face. Also, only, you know, less than 10 feet away from the front property line and moving up and being a two-story face flat along that facade. The second story, I'm looking at that floor plan, and there again, I think that there's a number of ways that that floor plan could be arranged to not lose any spaces or rooms, but be able to meet that second story setback and second story setback, front setback, and still be able to provide all the generous spaces that you're looking to accomplish. So I think I agree with some of my commissioners that I think the design is very nice. I like the back elevation a lot. And I think there's some interesting things happening on the design of the front as well. But I don't support the front variance on both the first and the second stories.
More comments?
Yeah, I do. So I do feel like it's a little flat in the front. I'm not opposed to the setback. I think we've seen a number of projects that have come in front of us, and maybe not front setbacks, but we've had properties. I have one on the side of my house where they kept the existing foundation, and that house is right up against my master bedroom. And we've had one at 50 Burlingame Avenue over here where that property, they kept that existing house, remodeled it, and they left the setbacks, especially the side and the front. And if you go look at it, it doesn't fit the neighborhood, but it's actually a very pretty Spanish style home, and they've done a nice job. So we have done it. We've had nice projects come before us. I'm thinking that maybe it's the colors that have been used, unfortunately. I'm not sure, but it just feels the front just needs a little bit of work on the second floor. And I don't know if it's a setback. I don't know if it's the material, but it feels very large and forward to me. So other than that, I actually really like this house and I could see moving forward, but I do want to see a little bit more work on the second floor top part of that house. And Tim, I don't know if it's just stepping it back a little bit. I feel like it's just something that's kind of right in our faces. So I'm not opposed at leaving where the first floor is. I find that, hey, if the house is where it's at and we can work with it, we've done it on a lot of other projects in our city. And so that's my only comment. And I don't like the roof don't like that door on the side, and I don't like that roof on the side either, but I'm sure you could figure something out on that.
Commissioner Short, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I'll just also make a couple brief comments on the front facade. I think that primary one does feel a little bit flat. And I think that most of the ways I've seen houses with really prominent steep gables like this on the second story do things is they actually have it project out a little bit on the second story and then maybe a little bit more in the peak of the gable end. But this is already so projected out in the front. I'm not sure if that would be agreeable or even work well in this case. I think that at the very least, it might help to use those the belly band at the top of the first story. If that was projecting out maybe a few inches just so that it was flush with the top of those projecting windows, that might add a little bit of definition between there, but I'm not really sure. And I know that the elevation drawing shows different types of wood siding being used on the second story, and then the peak of the gable end on the rendering, it looks all the same, but I know that that'll be different. I think, yeah, it's hard to recommend anything that wouldn't exacerbate the problem that other federal commissioners have had on this. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Also wanted to mention the window, the round window on the side, I think it's out of proportion. So it looks like a bit big, or to me, it does look like too much going on. Anyway, but that's for me, that's the least of the problems. So any other comments? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the special permit. I think because it's the existing footprint and because of the location, it's right off of Peninsula. The first house off Peninsula, the side yard is actually almost reading as a front yard, and it's very close to the road. I think it'll be fine in the context of this immediate neighborhood. I do find the ground floor front windows to be really large, especially for a bedroom, especially that it's only 9 feet from the street. So I think from a privacy and noise perspective, that probably is just not practical, and they look a little bit oversized. I like the suggestion Commissioner Camerota had about the side awning. That door needs to be wider, even if you have to move the gas meter. It's just, that's not going to be a practical door to go in and out of. And then, yeah, I think if you can add some more interest in the front facade, that's great. But I could find for the special permit either way.
Okay, so I think that's it. Then someone needs to make a motion, I guess.
I move we bring the project back on regular action. But in my case, not with the front setback variance. So I don't know.
Not with the front setback at all. Yeah, I would second that one.
So for the motion, you would just be determining where you were going to see the next action. You wouldn't actually need to include anything with it. So you could either continue it with the notes you've made to come back to design review. You could bring it back on regular action. You could bring it back on consent, but there's no need to add additional restrictions to what you're doing next.
I also did want to, oops, maybe I have to open public comment again for this, but I did want, no one here? Okay, well, my comment was, because I'm so upset about it, but my comment is, did you consider maybe a variance, if privacy is the issue, a fence variance, which I don't see in this? Yeah, so that was the only thing I wanted to mention. Okay, go ahead.
So I had made the motion to bring the project back on regular action.
Second.
All right. Any comment on the motion? Nope. Okay.
I don't, yeah.
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lowenthal,
Aye.
Chair Puff.
I guess I.
It's just bringing it back. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks very much. All right, so. Thank you. All right, so. I don't have to say anything else on that one, right?
No,
That would
it's
be it.
not appealable.
All right. Oh, and not appealable. Okay. And then we're on to, let's see. Actions not appealable. Commissioners' reports. Are there any commissioners' reports? I don't have any. And directors' reports?
So we do have one FYI item before you, 34 Dwight Road.
All right. Does anyone want to pull that one?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, my goodness. Okay,
All right.
great.
Sounds,
Gonna pull something.
yeah,
All right. So that's it. Thank you.
it for that.
Then, all right, so, then we've got future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items? Okay. All right, that's it then. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9:15. Not too bad, right?
Too bad.
Yeah, all right.
I would-
thank
yeah.
you.
Project.
Items, thank you.